You have kids in your class who just don't seem to want to be successful. No matter what you do, they just don't seem to want to do well. Maybe you offer test revisions or after school help, and they just don't ever seem to make that effort. As strange as this sounds, they may not even know what success feels like. They don't crave it like other students do. Even in high school, we have some students who don't know what it actually feels like to be successful. Math has always been hard for them and has always been a knock on their self-esteem. If you've never had chocolate or coffee, would you crave it? Let me tell you a quick story. Every once in a while, one of my Facebook friends would post about a fruit called longan. If you've had longan before, you may know where I'm going with this. It's totally delicious. I'm a homebody, but I'm a pretty adventurous eater. I'll basically try anything. So when I finally found longan at the grocery store, I bought some to give it a try and found that it's so delicious. Now I crave it, whereas I didn't even know what it tasted like before. I think about success in this way. We needed to know what it feels like in order to crave it. Before I get into some ways that I've found to get students to crave success, let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Shana McKay and I blog at scaffoldedmath.com. I live in Massachusetts with my husband, who's a teacher, and our 6-year-old daughter, who this year is in first grade virtual. When I got out of college, I worked in group homes for kids until I got a job in my field, in my degree field, working as a hydrogeologist. I did that for 3 years. I took soil samples at leaky gas stations and water samples, collected the data, chugged the data, and wrote endless reports. I realized it wasn't for me. So after 3 years, I decided what I really wanted to do was teach. So I signed up to be a substitute in the Boston Public Schools, and I was sent to just about every school that year in Boston. That summer, I taught a couple science courses in summer school, and then by August of that year, I was hired to teach biology and algebra at Monument High School in South Boston High School complex. I taught biology and algebra for a few years before being bumped out of biology by the biology chemistry teacher. This is Mike Pfaff. He's an actor now in Hollywood, but that's a whole other story. At first, I was pretty devastated. I loved teaching science, and I was equally devastated a few years later when I was bumped from Algebra 1 to Algebra 2. But it all turned out to be the best thing ever. In the meantime, I enrolled in a master's program at night in mathematics for teaching, and it was during all of that that I finally fell in love with math. Those aha, I get it now moments in math didn't happen as much in science. I still love science. It's what I consider my first subject, but there's something very special about teaching math. After 7 years in Boston, I wanted to find something new, so I taught 8th grade algebra for a year. I love algebra. What could go wrong? It was a disaster. All the respect for you middle school teachers. You guys are the real MVPs. After that year, I got a job teaching high school special ed math and found where I was really always meant to be. Teaching special ed is hard, so much math anxiety, but so much room for growth. I blog now about teaching math at scaffoldedmath.com. I also run a Facebook group called Visual Math that I hope you'll consider joining. Most of my session here today will draw from my experiences teaching high school special education math. In all of our classes, whether they're mainstream, inclusion, or sub-separate, we have students who learn differently and struggle to some degree with some sort of math anxiety. Just as we can scaffold our math curriculum, we can scaffold success in very concrete ways. We can teach what success looks like as much as we can teach how to graph a function. In my session today, I'll go over the resources that are in the resource folder that I linked, and also some of the teaching practices that I found over the years that will start getting your students to crave success so that they'll want to find it on their own. Now for some research. The anticipation of doing math was found to cause actual physical pain in some brains. This can be a major issue, not only in our classes, but later on doing taxes and seeing if a sale price is accurate, or even which deal at the grocery store is a better one when you're looking at the unit pricing. As humans, we avoid pain. So how can we move our kids past this? In the resource folder that I linked, there are a few resources that have helped me boost confidence in my students by highlighting their successes. If you have a virtual classroom, there is the fridge, virtual bulletin board, where you can display student work. The printable letters are also linked in that folder. This is my classroom fridge. It was bright green, and we hung up all of our student work there that students chose to hang up. The most important function of this bulletin board was as a reminder on the harder days that my kids could do it. If on Friday Aaron was telling me he couldn't do it, I could point to his paper on the fridge and remind him that he could do it. It was a visual reminder of the success that he had found earlier that week. There's also a Math Boss pennant in the resource folder. Students can choose their favorite design, and you can type their name at the top. One teacher told me a heartwarming story about her students high-fiving their Math Boss pennant on the way into class. In the folder is also a math person poster in both print and digital form that reminds students that we're all math people, and another poster with words from Naz. These all act as reminders to students that we can do math, but we still have not gotten to how we can get kids to crave math success. This next part of my presentation may at first seem a little opposite of the high rigor talked about in math education. We always want to keep the bar high because we know that kids will rise to our expectations. But how can we get our math-phobic kids, our kids who feel actual pain from thinking about math, to where they crave the success that we know they can achieve? How do we get them to want to be successful in math without the need for extrinsic rewards? One year I had an exceptionally difficult senior in my Algebra 2 class. He'd storm out of class whenever we talked about plotting points. This was his off switch. I think about math education as a series of switches, like on a circuit board. Some kids, maybe because they were out with the flu for a week in 4th grade or moved halfway through freshman year, have gaps. Sometimes these gaps resolve themselves. Other times they follow kids for years. For whatever reason, my senior went from 0 to 100 whenever we talked about plotting points on a coordinate plane. If we were naming a point on a coordinate plane, he absolutely hated that we looked vertically for the x-coordinate and horizontally for the y-coordinate. And to be honest, it does feel a little bit backwards. This was just one of the things that would set him off in my class. That year, my evaluator was a former superstar math teacher, which was a little bit intimidating, but she was awesome. When she saw my struggles with this student, she gave me some great advice. Wait until he has a great day, then call home. Tell all his teachers. Make it so that he wants to be good every day. He will want to be that person everyone is telling him he is. I didn't have to wait very long. Later that week, he had a great class, so I called home and left a message. I never heard back from his mom. I also told his program director, his liaison, and all of his other teachers what a great class he had that day. The next day, I asked, "Hey, did your mom get a message from me?" And he said that she didn't, or that he didn't think that she did. But he had a good day that day. And for most of the days after that, he had great days. On his last day of senior year, I was out in the parking lot and he came running over to me, "My favorite teacher." I will always be grateful for the advice that administrator gave me. Call home on good days. Now for a total change in direction. Templates. These were a major part of my teaching routine because of the predictability and that they were a concrete way to scaffold success. Students came in my classroom and they knew to grab a template from the basket. You can also put them in page protectors if you want to save paper. Some days I would collect the templates, other days I would have students glue them into their notebooks. The reason that templates scaffold success is because they're predictable. They offer immediate feedback and they're repetitive. Students know exactly what to expect. The repeat practice teaches them to find patterns in their work. And this all leads to mastery of what is being asked of them, which leads to feelings of success. It's super easy to make these templates, or you can get them from me for free. The link is in the resource folder. I would shine the graph on the board and ask students to find the domain, the range, the function, etc. Or I would put an equation on the board and ask students to graph it and fill in the rest of the fields. I used graphfree.com to make the graphs, and I kept them all as images in a folder. This was all super easy on me too. I would just whip up a graph or an equation, and the rest was the student's responsibility. This next one might be a little controversial. Easy assignments that you secretly know kids will score 100% on. They don't know the assignments are easy, but you do. When they score 100%, it makes them feel good, and to me, this is what math is all about. At some point, students will have the choice to either take another math class or not. And at that moment, you'll want them to feel like, yeah, I can do this. At some point, they'll have the decision to tackle their taxes on their own or not, or figure out at the grocery store which is a better deal on a grocery store item. These covertly Easy assignments are a direct attack on the math anxiety that activates that fight or flight response in math that, by evolutionary design, blocks higher thinking. My favorite one of these is matching activities. Make 10 graphs, 10 equations, and have students match them together. You can make these easily in Graph-Free and PowerPoint. Let me just bump over real quick and I'll show you how to do this. So here we are in PowerPoint and I'm on my laptop. So it's going to sound a little different now than it did a minute ago. And I want to show you how you can easily make matching activities. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just in PowerPoint, I'm going to set my page to be able to print 8.5 by 11. So I'll just do my design, slide size, and I'm going to do my 11 times 8.5. And this will format it so that we can print this activity if we want to. I'll also show you how to save these images so you can put them into a digital activity. Okay, so I want to go over to graph-free.com. I love this site because you can make any type of graph you'd like, and you can just save it as an image and then insert it into any activity that you want to build. So start graphing now. We're going to change our plot one. Let's just say we want to do some linear equations. So 2x minus 1, enter. And I'm going to right click on here and save image as. I'll save it in my folder as graph1. Okay, so then I can just change my equation. So 3x minus 1, enter. Save image as. And I can do this graph too. Okay, so I want to go back over to PowerPoint now, and here I am in PowerPoint. And I'm just going to insert those images that I made. So insert, pictures. Here are the two images. I'm going to Control A and grab them all. All right. So here we have our two graphs that we want to do. You know, with a matching activity, you'll probably want to make like 10 graphs, I would say, and then 10 equations. So I'm going to just format the graph a little bit, right click, format the picture. I can do a line. Maybe I want to do a dashed line so students can cut this out. And there I have it. I have two of my graphs here. They're all set. They're ready to go. Now to make my equations that will go along with this, I can do insert, text box. I add y equals 2x minus 1. Change the font. That might be a little bit too big. Okay, so this one would go here. I'm going to copy and make a new one. This one will be 3x minus 1. And of course, you would make more. And then I will add, I'll add little shapes around these so that students know to cut them out. So insert shape. I can change this fill to no fill, or I can change it to solid fill. Maybe make it white, send it to the back, and do the same for 3x minus 1. Okay, so now I have my two graphs and my two equations, and of course I've already said this, but you'd make more than this, of course. And they're matched together right now. So if you were to make this a printable activity, you'd want to just mix them up a little bit so that you wouldn't be in charge of cutting it out. Students could cut it out themselves and not know what the answers were. You might make a sheet or one side with the equations and one side with the graphs, whatever you'd like to save paper and so forth. So now I want to show you how to get this into Google Slides to make a digital activity. So what I like to do is I like to change and I like to add a little dimension to the pieces so that students can tell that these are pieces that are supposed to move. So I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow to all of them. Okay, so now I have a little bit of shadow. You can change the color here if you'd like. Maybe you'd like your equation slips to be a different color. You can do that over here with solid fill. And now what we're going to do is we're going to save these pieces as PNG images so that we can get them into Google Slides. So we're going to do each one. So I'm going to grab this one, right click, save as picture. I'm going to make a folder called Google. And here I'll make another one, graphs. And I will go into there and do picture one. And then here, I'll right click, save as picture, and I'll do picture two. Okay, so now this is the cool part. With these slips, you can save them even though you built them in two pieces. So you did the text box with the 3x minus 1, and then you also did the shape around the equation. So as long as you have your equation, everything kind of nice and tidy, you want to grab everything. Just make sure you have everything grabbed. And we're going to right click and save as picture. And in here, I'm going to go back to Google, just change it to equations. You can save them however you want, but I just found that this is an easier way to keep things organized. Equations. And we can do equation one. And we can do right click, drag over everything, right click, save as picture. Do this as 2. And now when we put these into Google Slides, they'll go in nice and cleanly. Okay, so now here I am over in Google Slides, and I'm just going to build my matching activity. So let me grab all of these text boxes that automatically go onto Google Slides and delete those. And I'm going to do insert image, upload from computer. And I'll go into my graphs and I'll grab both of them, pull them in. Now, if you hold down Shift, you can resize these and they won't lose their dimensions. So now you have your two graphs, and we'll do insert image, and we'll do insert image to get the two equations in. Hold down Shift and resize to whatever size you'd like. Okay. All right. So now you can add a text box here. We can do insert text box. Match the graphs to their equations. And you can mess around with the formatting here, however you'd like to do it. And these pieces will all move now. You can drag and drop them to wherever the kids can drag and drop them and match their equations. If you don't use Google Slides, if you're a Microsoft school, do File, Download As, Microsoft PowerPoint, and I'll title this Matching Activity. Now when it opens in PowerPoint, you can still drag around the pieces. So students can use this in PowerPoint if you don't want to use it in Google Slides, or if you can't because you're not a Google school. And you can see that the equation and the box that the equation was in are all together as one piece. All right, I'll see you back over there. I'm going to just come right out and say this. The goal of these short activities is for kids to score 100%. They need to know what success feels like, as small as it may be. The goal here is not a rigorous assignment. The goal is to chip away at math anxiety, to pull down that effective filter so that the next assignment can be more rigorous. I'd throw these little assignments in whenever I saw kids were struggling in class. The boost to the self-esteem carried my students through harder assignments. I am not saying that every assignment should be like this, but I also don't think that every graded assignment in math class needs to be arduous. Students will not know that the design of these activities was to boost their confidence. They may have an inkling that it was an easier assignment than other ones that you've given, but they will not know for sure. This leads me into my next tip. This might seem like a silly one, but stamps, rubber stamps. I left a lot of my teaching supplies at school. Otherwise, I'd show you this really cool skull stamp that I had that students always chose for their papers. I always gave them a choice of which stamp that they wanted for their paper. I'd also sometimes let them stamp their own papers. This trust went a long way with my students. If you're at home and students are working on the computer or on any sort of digital activity, you can make some digital stickers. Let me bump over again real quick and show you how to do that. If you're at all familiar with PowerPoint, these are digital stickers that you can then easily paste onto a student's assignment in Google Drive or wherever your students are learning. So I'm going to go over to the internet, and there's a website called Pixabay. And Pixabay is cool because all of these images are free to use. So say I wanted to have a, let's see, like a gold background. Type in the word gold. And they have all these colors that come up. You can use any of these. Maybe I like, just kind of a piece of this, or maybe you'll look at this one. This is really nice. So I'm going to just do this free download and download it, not a robot, and move my head out of the way. And then I'm going to go back over to my PowerPoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a shape. And let's say I wanted to do maybe this shape here, this pentagon. And I'm going to right click and I can format the shape. And my fill would then be a picture fill. And I would insert the picture from the backgrounds that I had grabbed. I'll move my head again. Okay, so I like this. I think it looks pretty cool. And I'm going to just change the line. I kind of like dark lines around things. Okay, now to let it stand off the page a little bit, you can go up here and do a shadow. All right, so now I have my sticker. It's about the right size, and I want to put some text over it. Now you can add text to an image, but sometimes the text gets too small. So what I do is I put a text box over top. So I'm going to just grab another text box that I already had made, and I'm going to put awesome. Okay, so I kind of like how that looks. It says awesome. So the trick here is you want the text to kind of fit within the size here. So let me show you what I mean. So here on BAM, I don't want the text box to be hanging over the side. So have it centered. And then I'm just going to grab everything like this, right click, save as picture. And I'm going to save it as a picture. Okay, so now let's say we're in Google Slides. Okay, so here we are in a digital assignment. This is a digital puzzle. And let's say the student arranged all the pieces and did a great job arranging all the pieces. What you can do is do insert, image, upload from computer. And you can stick that sticker into the student's work. So when the student goes back and sees it, they can see that the sticker there says awesome. There's so many different ways you can use that way to make stickers. So I hope this gives you some ideas. The next thing I want to talk today about is open notes assessments. I know that this is not an option for everybody, but I'd be leaving something out if I didn't include it here. If you're not allowed to give open notes quizzes, one other option might be for students to make a note card. At my school, the math department allowed every Algebra 2 student to make a little note card that they could use on their assessments. On the midterm, they could use all of the ones they had made up until that point, and for the final, they could use all of the ones that they made throughout the year. My co-teacher would save all of the note cards so that none of them went missing. In my own classes, I allowed for open notes and was very thankful for the support of my school to do this. Open notes assessments put the ownership on the student to take good notes. This force teaches executive functioning and organization of class materials. It does not rely on memorization and overcomes the mind-clouding adrenaline rush that kids with math phobia are constantly asked to overcome on their own. On non-test days, open notes assessments gave me leverage. Are you taking the notes? Remember, it'll be up to you to have this in your notebook when we have our quiz. Did you glue in your template? It'll be up to you to be able to find it in your notebook when we take our exam. With this, I'd also do notebook checks, which would be a random sampling of 10 assignments we would do. I would give these 8 times a year, so twice a term. I'd give the notebook check on a Monday so that the students knew what assignments were being checked, and on Thursday or Friday, I would collect their notebooks. The last thing I'll talk about today, of course, are word walls. Over the years, I've been asked if I would leave them up during assessments, and absolutely I would. I feel like in 2020, a big part of education is teaching where and how to access information instead of just remembering everything. So I would always encourage students to reference our word wall during classwork, during group work, and also during our exams. If you have any questions about any part of this, or just need somebody to bounce some ideas off of, you can always email me at shana@scaffoldedmath.com. Thank you so much for being at my session. Please check out the resource folder. I hope you find some things in there that you'll enjoy.